these ones. No. Oh, that's the one. Hello, sports fans! Welcome back. My name is Nate Miller, and this is Givin Takes, the online sports show where every week I sit down and talk to you all about everything sports-related. Had to clear the throat. Long time no see. I know. You're like, what? It's Friday. What's an episode? Why are you posting on Friday? And are you changing up the schedule? No. If you follow me on Instagram, you know this. I had only about 1 million delays in recording my show. I told you all last week I had something fun planned that I was going to do up in Michigan State when I was there. I did travel there to watch the Spartans lose in both basketball and hockey, which was a tough pill to swallow. That sucked. But I was still going to record the episode. Turns out I had audio issues up there with just everything going on. The two people, I had the one mic. It just didn't really work out. So I had to scrap that. But now I'm back here. I had my car break down multiple times this weekend. I had a bunch of delays with just trying to figure out when within the everyday schedule of MLB games and NHL games after my episode got postponed that I wanted to try to fit this into. So I nestled in on Thursday, which is when I'm recording this. It's a Thursday evening. And yeah, so that's why you're seeing this episode super late in the week. But don't worry, next Sunday I'm still going to have an episode. I've been planning and working on that episode. So 99% sure I'm going to get back on track and have a national championship preview for you next week. And going forward, Sunday night should be my record date, post around Monday morning, just so I can get the full week of baseball covered that happened and prepare everyone for the week coming up. So, with that being said, one more thing. So, as you all know, I'm partnered with the Empty the Bench Network, which is super fun. And I was letting you all know that I needed a laptop to run the system, to be on their show, to run the program, to be on their shows. Well, I got it. I got the new laptop. So next Monday, I'm going to be on the Empty the Bench Lounge. It airs at 11 p.m. Eastern till about 1. I'm going to be on that. No like set in stone recurring spots necessarily, but I will be having guest spots throughout the week. I'll be having a little betting show segment thing, whatever you want to call it. Not like long form, only a couple minutes long that I do every week that I'll be making with them. So a lot of fun stuff coming up. I know I've been saying a lot of fun stuff coming up for a long time, but next 2 weeks in that area is when it's finally going to get going. So that's super exciting. So that's all the huff and fluff out of the way. Make sure to follow all the socials. You know what to do, at Givin Takes on both TikTok and Instagram. If you want to follow the Empty the Bench Network, they're at ETB Network on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. And on YouTube, just youtube.com/ETB Network. So with that all out of the way and a very fun sports week behind us with some fun storylines ahead of us, let's get into today's starting 9 for episode 007, the James Bond episode. I don't know why I called it that, but you know what it is. You see it, 007. It's the James Bond episode. We're going to call it that. Happy James Bond episode, everybody. All right. Starting 9. Boom. Right? I got to get better at pointing. Like, I always point to the wrong side of the screen. So, reset. Boom. Starting 9. Let's get it. Leading off, we're going to be talking about the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8, what happened in there, a little 3 headlines from each round. Then we're going to be moving into the Final Four look ahead. I'm going to break down each team's path to the Final Four and then make my game picks for each of those 2 games in the National Championship. Then, moving on to our third topic, not our cleanup topic. What's the name of the third hitter? I don't know, but your best hitter's third, and it's not my best topic, but it's the most fun one. It's MLB Opening Week. I'm wearing my red, white, and blue. Those are the colors of the MLB, and, you know, America. It's America's pastime. I'm going to be talking about MLB Opening Week. It was a really fun week, a lot of stuff going on, so I'm gonna break down a couple headlines. Then for our cleanup topic, Fourth topic, it's the first week we've seen the automatic ball strike system, ABS. I'm going to be talking about my thoughts on that and just how that's been throughout MLB and how I feel about it. Then, for our fifth topic, and I'll kind of parlay this into what our sixth topic will be as well. You see it up there. It's going to be our National League and American League recaps. I'm going to do this every week. I'm going to break down each team in the National League very briefly. I'm going to tell you what their record is and how they did in the previous week against whatever teams they played. And then I'm going to have like a little one-sentence summary of how I feel about the team. Those are going to be very quick segments intentionally, and I'll explain more about that once I actually get to those topics later in the episode. So those are 5 and 6, and then, at 7, it's always there. It's the State of the Union. This week we're going to be talking about the Oakland Athletics. So I guess they're not Oakland anymore. The Athletics, just the Athletics. We're going to be talking about the Athletics and their slow 1-5 start. Then, moving down to the 8th slot, we're going to be talking about faces in new places. Guys who moved teams in this MLB offseason, who have found new homes that have been doing pretty well so far throughout the first week. And then finally, 9th topic, going to be talking about the NHL Eastern Conference. It is absolutely loaded, and I just wanted to take a couple minutes to let you all know my thoughts about that and just touch on that a little bit in this episode before getting into the top 10 as we close every episode. And as always, I'm not going to tell you the topic of the top 10 here because you know what you got to do. You either got to skip to the end and miss all this beautiful sports talk that I just set up for you in this starting 9, or you take a load off, you crack a beer or something. I don't know if you drank while watching this, but if you do, crack a beer open, take a load off, and enjoy the next hour of sports talk with your boy Nate Miller. All right, I think the latter sounds like the pretty good option to me. So without further ado, it's time for the leadoff topic: the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight. Outside of the Spartans losing, which broke my heart and made me really sad, it was a great round of basketball. Sweet 16 was absolutely so entertaining. Same thing you could say for the Elite Eight. I mean, Duke-UConn was one of the best March Madness games I ever watched, even though I didn't really watch it. I was golfing at the time, but I kept up with it on my phone, and the highlights did it justice. I wish I wasn't golfing in hindsight because, one of the best endings in the history of March Madness, but, had to get out there. It's golf season now. So I'm going to give you my 3 big takeaways from the Sweet 16. Actually, before I do that, I want to let you all know that if you forgot, I filled out a Sweet 16 bracket before the round took place. And if you're wondering, wonder how its picks did. I got 1 game right of the whole thing. I got 1 game right. I had St. John's, Michigan State, Nebraska. I had those. I had Houston winning. I had Arkansas winning. I had Texas winning. I had Michigan winning, which was correct. And then I had Iowa State winning. So the only game I got right was Michigan. So that was probably, of all, I almost had the worst possible second chance bracket you could have. I was 1 game away from being totally incorrect. But I just thought that was funny because that's almost as impressive as going 7-1. But I digress. Back into my 3 big things about the Sweet 16. The first is I think Alabama could have been a Final Four team if they just played defense. I mean, they shoot lights out. They're an incredible shooting team. I never thought they would beat Michigan. I mean, obviously I picked Michigan to win, but watching that game, it just kept making me think they shoot so efficiently that if they were just able to play defense, I think they actually could have strung a little run together and definitely beaten Tennessee. If they would have made it past Michigan, I definitely think they would have beaten Tennessee because of how that bottom half of the region ended up and advanced to the Final Four. So I just wanted to point that out that, hey, Alabama Crimson Tide, work on some defense and you might be able to get back to a deeper run in this tournament because you have the shooting, but you just, you need to be able to play the other side of the ball. Second thing, the low seeds hung tough. I mean, people were talking about there were no major upsets. I get that. But at the same time, we're not seeing the 14 seed upset the 3 seed as much anymore. But when we get into, these later rounds where, for example, Texas was playing Purdue, an 11 seed against a 2 seed. Iowa against Florida in the round of 32. We're not seeing the most major Cinderella upsets. But at the same time, like, we're still seeing good upsets in this tournament. So for all the people complaining that, I don't know, maybe like the teeny weeny school from like North Dakota or whatever that you love to root for might not win their first game, but you root for a team like Iowa or Texas who had a down year but is a Power 5 team, like we're still seeing those kind of upsets in the tournament, which I think is a good thing. And my third big takeaway was Illinois, man. They shocked the world, in my opinion. I mean, I know a decent amount of people probably picked Illinois to win that game against Houston, but I just felt Houston was such a powerhouse going into this. I had them winning it all. So, I mean, I guess I can't say they shocked the world necessarily, because probably not the whole world thought they were going to that Houston was going to win that game. But in my opinion, they shocked me a lot. I did not that I didn't have faith in them. I just thought Houston was going to be too much for them. So that was just an incredible performance. I mean, after Illinois won that game, I wanted Iowa to win that for Cinderella purposes in the Elite Eight, but I just knew Illinois was going to run to the Final Four because they just played so well against Houston. I mean, and watch out UConn. I mean, Dan Hurley's a menace after the round of 32, but hey, watch out UConn. Which takes me to that Elite Eight. What order do I want to do this in? I'm going to start with this one first. Iowa deserves a lot of credit. Like, round of applause for what Iowa managed to do in this tournament. All right, guys? Like, that was one hell of a run. They beat Clemson. They beat Florida. They beat Nebraska. Ultimately fell to Illinois. But those were three amazing wins against Clemson's not that good of a team, but Nebraska was playing really, really well at the time, and Florida was one of the top 4 seeds in the entire tournament. So what Iowa did should not be overlooked. They put on a great performance. They were hanging tough with Illinois for a long time in that Elite Eight game before it got away from them. But the Iowa Hawkeyes, man, great performance in March. Second thing I wanted to say is that Arizona is a force. I think Arizona, not that I was sleeping on them, but I just didn't realize that they would absolutely dismantle Arkansas like that. I mean, they beat them by what, like 20 points or something? Damn near. At least that's what it felt like. Like, that game was nowhere near Arkansas's game to win, like, the entire time. And then they went out and played Purdue and just toyed with them, too, and beat them. I mean, Arizona's looking like they're the team to beat right now. I know a lot of people are saying it's Michigan and that Arizona-Michigan is basically going to be the national championship because whoever wins that game will probably win the Natty. I think it's Arizona's tournament to lose at this point. I think they're by far the best team. And, I won't elaborate on that too much because my next subject is the Final Four where I'm going to dive more into those picks. But long story short, Arizona is a force to be reckoned with right now. I think I just don't see any weakness on their team. And then finally, game of the year. I said a couple weeks ago I thought Vanderbilt Nebraska would end up being the best game in the tournament. Oh, how wrong was I? Because we got Duke and UConn in the Elite Eight. That was something. Like I said, I didn't watch it live because I was golfing, but I was keeping up with it. Duke was up so big, and they crumbled so badly. There was that amazing three-point shot to end it after just the brain-dead turnover by Boozer within those final 10 seconds. I mean, wow. Like, it was an amazing game. There's so much on the line, especially for Duke, given that they keep falling short year after year with all these amazing players on their roster. Like, all these like high draft pick NBA caliber players that they have on their team year in and year out, and they still can't win. Like, it's like, what's going on with Duke? Like, that's ridiculous to me. And I know there was the whole other storyline about, like, oh, the technical foul of Dan Hurley being all like this with the referee, or whatever. I'm sorry if that scared anybody, by the way. I know I saw how that looked in the reflection of my face. I looked all bug-eyed and crazy, so sorry for the jump scare. But Dan Hurley was all up with the ref like that. You had the team, like, running out onto the court a little bit and then backing up. Duke fans were crying and calling for technicals left and right at the end of that game, trying to get the refs to win it for them because they couldn't do it themselves. I mean, what a game, man. What a game. Dan Hurley, cover machine after the round of 32. I mean, he covers spreads Like, he just covers every spread after they're round to 32. It's ridiculous. I've never seen anything like it. And just UConn as a whole, as a university, they just win after once they get into the Sweet 16. Like, I don't remember what the exact number was, but they have so many consecutive wins after reaching the Sweet 16 in March Madness right now. Like, they're on a crazy run. So who am I to say that they're not going to, go out and win the national championship? But those were the three big things that I had for the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight, closing the book on that topic and opening the book on the second topic, which is the Final Four. So, what I'm going to do is first, I'm just going to run through every team's path to the Final Four. Starting off with UConn, they were up in the East region. In the round of 64, they played Furman, the 15 seed. Then they beat UCLA as a 7 seed. Then they beat Michigan State as a 3 seed, and then Duke as a 1 seed. Illinois, down in the South region, to start off, they beat Penn, a 14 seed. Then they beat... Why don't I have this pulled up? Then they beat VCU as an 11 seed. They beat Houston, who were a 2 seed. And then finally in the Elite Eight, they beat the 9-seeded Iowa Hawkeyes, as I talked about previously. And then Arizona's path. They beat Long Island in the round of 64, a 16 seed. Then Utah State in the round of 32, who's a 9 seed. Then Arkansas in the Sweet 16, who's a 4 seed. And then finally, to advance to the Final Four, they beat the 2-seeded Purdue Boilermakers in the Elite Eight. And then finally, the Michigan Wolverines' path to the Final Four. They started off by beating the 16-seeded Howard. Then they beat St. Louis, who was a 9 seed in the round of 32. Then in the Sweet 16, they beat Alabama, as I talked about earlier, who was a 4 seed. And then in the Elite Eight, they beat Tennessee, who was a 6 seed. So that was every team's path to the Final Four. And now we get to what everyone wants to hear, my game picks. So in the first game, it is UConn and Illinois. In that game, as I was just kind of alluding to earlier, UConn doesn't lose after the Sweet 16. Dan Hurley covers after the Sweet 16. And Illinois has been great. They beat some really good teams and some teams who played and beat really good teams. So it's not like I want to take anything away from Illinois because I think this is going to be a fantastic basketball game. Both of these games are going to be absolutely fantastic. But just given the history that Dan Hurley has at this stage of the tournament and just the University of Connecticut has as a whole, I have no reason but to not pick UConn. So coming off the left side of the March Madness bracket, I have UConn. And now we move over to the other game, which is Arizona and Michigan. Now, I went back and forth about this a lot because everyone knows I'm a big Michigan State guy, so I could easily, just make the biased pick that I want Michigan to lose, so I'm going to have Arizona move on. I could do that. And I kind of am, I have Arizona winning that game. And this is why. So I just listed each team's path to the Final Four, right? If you notice something, Michigan never played a top 3 seed in this tournament. They just didn't do it. UConn did. Illinois did. Arizona did. Michigan, the best team they played was a team that didn't play defense, and it was the 4-seeded Crimson Tide. That was the most action they've seen in the last couple weeks in terms of skill level, was that Alabama team. They haven't been conditioned over these last 4 games for what Arizona is about to bring to the table. I just don't think, if they maybe played Iowa State in the Elite Eight and had like a higher caliber team to go up against to kind of warm them up for this game, then yeah, maybe I'll pick Michigan because I understand, Yaxel Lenenborg is insane and Michigan is a really good team because I do believe that. I know Michigan is a really good team, but I just don't think they've been conditioned for this game, honestly, based off of who they've played recently. Like, they just haven't played that good a talent, and Arizona's coming off a win against a Purdue team that beat Michigan. And I know Michigan also beat that Purdue team at Purdue, but still, transitive property. Arizona beat Purdue, Purdue beat Michigan, Arizona beats Michigan. I don't know. There's a lot of ways you could go about it, but I have to pick one and just... It seems to me like this is Arizona's game. I just talked about how they're a force too. I don't think anything's slowing them down, and I just don't think Michigan just hasn't played the competitive games that they needed to. Like, they're going to get beat physically, I think, in this game. And they'll probably be able to handle it for a while, but I don't think, like, think of it like this. Like, it's just going to be like getting into an ice bath. Like, when you first get in, you're, like, in shock. You're like, but then, you kind of start to settle into it. You kind of start to feel, like, the temperature. It gets used to your body, and then you're good. Apply that logic to a basketball game. Michigan is going to get shocked when they first get into that game, and I think Arizona's going to go up big. And then Michigan's going to settle into the tempo and probably keep the score gap around what it was after Arizona's initial run, but I just don't think they're ever fully going to recover from it. So I have Arizona winning that game, which leads me to a national championship of UConn and Arizona. Hydrogen bomb versus hydrogen bomb. I mean, it's just two titans going at it in this game. And this basically came down to a coin flip for me. I mean, do I take the team who does nothing but win after the Sweet 16 and cover and beat teams and win national championships? Or do I take the team who looks like the most skilled team left in the tournament right now, who will be coming off a win, hypothetically, in this scenario, against a very good Michigan team ready to play UConn? That's the conundrum. And after, I looked at numbers, I looked at rosters, I flipped some coins because that's how close this decision was for me. I landed on the UConn Huskies winning the national championship this year. That is my national champion. I mean, until I see Dan Hurley lose after the Sweet 16, I can't pick against it, man. I just can't do it. So, my recap, Final Four. UConn and Illinois play, UConn wins. Arizona and Michigan play, Arizona wins. National championship, UConn, Arizona. UConn takes it home. So that is my Final Four segment. Moving on now, we're going to be getting into MLB Opening Week. This is going to start a long stretch of baseball talk. Next, 5 topics are about baseball. I can't wait. Love baseball. You'll learn that about me quick as baseball season ramps up more and more. But let's get it going. So, it's fun. It's back. Everyone who's a baseball fan has been waiting for this season. It's here. We've got a week under our belts. Every team has played 2 series so far, so we have a small sample size of who these teams and players are, but we do have something to look at and break down. So I just picked 3 fun storylines I want to talk about, and like I said, I'm not including ABS in this just because I'm going to be going more in depth into that in my next topic. But yeah, man, it makes me smile. Do you see the smile on my face? I know I'm looking all around my computer, but do you see the smile on my face? Baseball's back. I'm so happy. I love baseball season, especially because it's looking like the Pirates are going to be good. They just signed Connor Griffin to a 9-year, $140 million extension. He's getting called up for the home opener tomorrow. I know Skeens had a 67.5 ERA after the first game, but he bounced back against the Reds through a good 5 innings. Oh, we're back, man. We're so back. 7 months of baseball. Sign me up. Anyway, 3 fun storylines that I wanted to talk about. First off, Yankees pitching looks legit. I mean, talk about one hell of a pitching staff. I mean, 3 shutouts in 6 games, 6 total runs allowed, 1 to the Giants, 5 to the Mariners. I mean, Schlitter looks absolutely dialed in. He's been pitching unconsciously. Max Fried looks great. And then, there's just, Carlos Rodon and Garrett Cole in that rotation too. I know Garrett Cole hasn't pitched yet, but... And the bullpen looks great too. David Bednar's been pitching well, closing games out. I mean, Yankees pitching staff looks legit, man. I think the Yankees are going to be, for once, carried by their pitching and not hitting 9,000 home runs in a season, because that's the only way they're able to win games. I actually think the Yankees are going to be more benefited by their pitching this year, which is just totally new and very interesting for New York. I don't think they're too used to that. Second off, the Pirates look like they finally have an offense that can support good pitching outings. Last year, they averaged 3.6 runs per game, which was dead last in the MLB. And as of today, they're currently averaging 4.83 runs per game, which is in the top third of the MLB. And they currently lead the National League in homers. So, I mean, it's a small sample size, but for a team that just absolutely could not hit and generate runs at all last year, like, I mean, those guys are under contract. So you can literally say you weren't even able to pay them to generate runs last year. It was painful to watch as a fan. But this year, they're putting up runs. They've had multiple games with like 7 or 8 runs already. I think 2 games with 8 runs, 1 game with 7 through 6. So that offense is here. Now they get to add Connor Griffin over Jared Triolo. So that's just exciting because with the pitching staff they had last year, all they needed was bats. And now they have bats. So like I said, I'm going to keep saying it. Watch out for the Pirates, man. Watch out for the Pirates. And then finally, my third storyline that I wanted to talk about is that the Mets are going to be so ridiculously good this year on one condition, and that condition is just that they don't Met. Like, if the Mets met like they normally do, you know, they're going to be third in the division and barely miss out on the playoffs. But if they don't Met, they're going to be, they might win 100 games. I mean, they already did a little bit of metting early in this season, blowing a couple late leads and losing some close extra inning games to both the Pirates and the Cardinals. However, they have the guys to go out and win 100 games and dethrone the Dodgers. I mean, on offense, you got Juan Soto, Bo Bichette, Francisco Lindor, Luis Robert, Jorge Polanco, Francisco Alvarez, Marcus Semien, and Brett Beatty. Like, that's a ridiculous lineup. And then, you know, you got Freddie Peralta and Nolan McLean and Kodai Senga as 3/5 of your starting rotation. You have the guys on paper to go out and win a World Series and dethrone the Dodgers. I mean, at this point, you know, we'll say make the World Series because that's kind of, you could win the World Series, but who knows what comes out of the AL. I feel like for every team in the NL, the goal at first is just beat the Dodgers. Like, get the Dodgers out of the way and then worry about it. So in terms of the Mets, as long as they don't Met it up and do Met things, I think they could win the National League and take down the Dodgers in a playoff series because on paper, that's a ridiculously good lineup. I know Francisco Lindor had like a bunch of brain farts in that game against the Cardinals where he just like forgot the amount of outs so he didn't turn a double play when he could have, and then he just kind of was like standing off the base, just like he let the guy pick him off. I don't know. It was weird. I don't know where Francisco Lindor's at mentally. That might be the Met effect on him. But at the end of the day, like I said, on paper, these guys in New York can get the job done. I mean, New York baseball, after a down year last year, both of those teams are looking like forces. So those are my 3 quick storylines for MLB opening week, a really fun week. I watched a lot of baseball this week. And while watching those baseball, I took a lot of notes about our 4th topic, which is the first week of the automatic ball strike system. Pause for dramatic effect. And water, of course. So it's the first week of ABS. I'll just give you my thoughts on it initially. I really like it. I think... What do I think exactly? How do I phrase this? It's better for the game. I know like a lot of teams are going to catch the bad half of it and be like, oh, that was a borderline pitch that we didn't get that we would have gotten if ABS existed. You know, like a lot of people are going to be like that. But in my eyes, more teams are going to benefit from this than they don't, you know? Like most of the times it's going to be you on offense and whoever you got up to bat on your team is going to challenge a pitch that was called a ball or strike or whatever, and it gets overturned in their favor. Like, that's good. That's good. Actually, I guess if you were a hitter, like, it was called a strike and you want it to be overturned to a ball, that's when you're going to tap your helmet. You're not going to see a ball get called when you're a hitter and be like, you know what, I think that was a strike. You're not going to see that. But I think it's going to help out the offense a lot more than it does the defense. I mean, just as like through player polls in these early weeks, a lot of hitters like this a lot more than pitchers and catchers do, which is totally understandable. I mean, I don't think that surprises anyone, but what did surprise me is the fact that in episode 2, I talked about ABS, and I said they were going to be taking that little strike zone box off the screen. I was totally wrong. I read that. I thought that was going to 100% be the case. Maybe it was at the time, and they changed it because of backlash or whatever, but we still have the little box. So everyone can rejoice. We have the little strike zone on our screen. It's not going nowhere. It's not going anywhere. If it wasn't going nowhere, that means it would be going somewhere. No, it's not going anywhere. It's here to stay. I love that. I love everything about ABS, and because I wanna throw some numbers at you. So, ABS right now has an overall success rate of approximately 54 to 55%, and already this is true. This is a real number. Over 150 calls have already been overturned, with pitchers and catchers being much more successful at challenging at around 60% compared to hitters who are hovering around 50%. So ABS is clearly working. It's doing its job. It's been long overdue that these umpires need help because some of their calls are simply just ruining games. But it's here. We have it. I think it's doing great. I mean, I think these umpires should, it puts them on blast. They deserve this, in all honesty. I mean, if you're going to make a terrible call, I like the fact that now that you have to stand, these guys have to stand and look at the strike zone on the scoreboard in front of them while a group of fans behind them either cheer or boo after the call is changed. Put the umpires on blast for not being good at their jobs. When the players aren't good at their jobs, they get put on blast. It should be the same for the umpires because they are very important in baseball. I mean, they are involved in every single pitch. So I love that. I love all aspects of ABS except one. I think that there needs to be a more clearly defined rule about how long in between when the pitch is thrown and when you're able to tap your helmet in order for it to be a challenge. There have already been so many back and forths of, oh, that guy took too long, so why was he able to challenge it? Or a guy taps his hat and the umpire's like, oh no, you took too long, now you can't challenge it. I think MLB needs to figure out a more concrete time limit. Maybe have a little 3-second clock up on the scoreboard or something so everyone can visualize how much time someone has to challenge a pitch. Because I think if there's a gray area there, that's just going to lead to so many ejections and problems that don't need to happen. So get a little 3-second clock up on the screen to let everyone be on the same page about how long these people have to challenge. That is literally the only thing I would change about ABS. Otherwise, I think it is perfect. I think it is great for the game, and I am very happy that it has found its way into Major League Baseball. So that's all I had to say about ABS. Kind of quick, but that's all. I mean, it's an automated strike zone. There ain't much to say about it. If it was bad, then I'd have a lot to say, but it's doing its job. So who am I to complain? I'm not. I'm praising it. So that's the end of that topic, and I'm going to move into our fifth topic now, which is the National League recap. This is going to become a staple during baseball season, along with the American League recap I get to next. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go division by division. I'm going to put 5 minutes on the clock. I don't know if I'm going to actually be able to get a timer on the screen. I'm going to try to figure that out. If I can't, just trust me that it's been 5 minutes, because I just kind of like the idea of those topics where it's like, all right, 5 minutes packing a bunch of information. That's what I'm trying to do. And like I said, I'm going to give you each team's record, their record versus the certain series teams that they played during the week. And then I'm going to give a 1 to 2-ish sentence summary of just how I feel about this team. It's just supposed to be a really quick, really fast, here's what happened in the MLB, here's how I feel about these teams. I'm going to go division by division. I'll have the standings up on the screen whilst I'm talking about that division. And I think that's everything. I think that's everything to explain what these new topics are going to be. So if I forget anything, I'll circle back and figure it out. Without further ado, I'm going to get some water before this. Let's get going. So 5 minutes on the clock, starting in 3, 2, 1. Starting off in the NL East, the Miami Marlins are 5-1. They went 3-0 against the Rockies this week. They swept them, and 2-1 against the White Sox. They beat the teams they should beat, and I'm excited to see them play real competition. The Braves, 4-2. They started 2-1 against the Royals and then went 2-1 against the Athletics. Solid start in a year where they need to bounce back. The Mets, they're 3-3. They went 2-1 against the Pirates and 1-2 against the Cardinals. They have a very talented roster, but they need to start winning these close late inning games. Phillies, 3-3. They went 1-2 against the Rangers and 2-1 against the Nationals. They had a fine start. I Might have more expected them to go like 4-2 or 5-1 instead of 3-3, but I'm not really concerned. It's early in the season. And then finally, Nationals, they're 3-3. They went 2-1 against the Cubs, 1-2 against the Phillies. They're 500 against two really solid National League teams, and they're still my dark horse, like fringe team in the wild card. Like I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but I won't be surprised if they make a little noise and kind of have their names mentioned in some late wild card standings graphics come August or September. I know that was a lot more than one sentence. The NL Central, the Brewers, 5-1. They went 3-0 against the White Sox and 2-1 against the Rays. They didn't play good teams, but they still look like a real threat in the National League. Cardinals, 4-2. 2-1 against the Rays and 2-1 against the Mets. In my opinion, it's a very surprising over 500 start. I doubt they keep it up for long. Cubs, 3-3, 1-2 against the Nationals, 2-1 against the Angels. They're playing okay, but okay is not going to cut it for the Chicago Cubs team. They need to play great. Reds, 3-3. They went 2-1 against the Red Sox, 1-2 against the Pirates. They needed to take a step forward this year, and from what I've seen so far, it doesn't really seem like they did. The Pirates, 3-3. They went 1-2 against the Mets, 2-1 against the Reds. It looks like they finally have an offense that can support their elite pitching staff. And then finally, NL West, Dodgers, 4-2. They went 3-0 against the Diamondbacks and 1-2 against the Cleveland Guardians. They're still a juggernaut, but that Cleveland series, I think, might raise some eyebrows about how good are they truly. But once again, it's early in the season. Diamondbacks, 3-3. They got swept by the Dodgers and swept the Tigers. Very streaky start, and I'm honestly not entirely sure what to make of this team right now. Rockies, 2-4. They got swept by the Marlins and won the series 2-1 against the Jays. That series win against the Jays was surprising and fun for Colorado Rocky fans, but I'm still not very hopeful for what that franchise is going to do this year. The Padres, 2-4. They went 1-2 against both the Tigers and the Giants. They're underperforming. Both sides of the ball need to start playing better. They're not pitching very well. They're not hitting very well. It's just kind of all around mediocre in San Diego. And then finally, the San Francisco Giants, they're 2-4. They got swept by the Yankees and then won that aforementioned series against the Padres 2-1. They're just kind of there, you know. They haven't shown me anything that gets me too optimistic or too pessimistic about their team right now. So that's that. I think that was under 5 minutes, like pretty substantially, which is what I want to go for, you know. Now you know how every National League team did, what their record is, how they did in both of their series that they played. And I know that Nationals thing kind of turned into a little rant. Not a rant, but just like a more longer-winded one than the rest. But now you see the format I'm going for with this. But I am open to workshopping it. So if you liked what I just did there and what I'm about to do for the American League, let me know. If you have any suggestions on how you think I should change or tweak this, maybe for episodes going forward, also let me know. I'm open to suggestions. The comments are there. I like trying new things, except sushi. I don't like trying sushi, and that would be a new thing for me. But I digress. That is the National League. I'll run back the standings for you real quick in terms of placement. Marlins in first place in the NL East. The Braves, second place. Mets, third place. Phillies in fourth. Nationals, fifth. NL Central, Brewers in first. Cardinals in second. Cubs in third. Reds in fourth. Pirates in fifth. In the NL West, the Dodgers in first. Diamondbacks in second. Rockies in third. Padres in fourth. The Giants in fifth. And before I move on, I do just want to make note that 12 teams in the National League right now are 500 or better. There are 3 teams that aren't. They're all 2-4, and they're all in the NL West. The Rockies, Padres, and Giants are all 1-2 games below 500. Every other team is 500 or better. So I don't really know what to make of that because, like I said, all of this is small sample size stuff. It's been 6 games, so you got to take everything with probably multiple grains of salt at this point because it's just so early in the season. But we still got to make storylines. We still got to find stuff to talk about, right? So that's what we are doing here. So that is the end of the National League recap. And now moving on to the American League recap. I'm going to do the same thing I just did. Every team, their record, who they played, and a quick little summary of how I feel about the team. So I'm going to get that going in 4, 3, 2, Starting off with the New York Yankees. They're 5-1. They swept the Giants and went 2-1 against the Mariners. The pitching on that team is absolutely unreal. Toronto Blue Jays, 4-2, 3-0 against the Athletics, 1-2 against the Rockies. They faltered a bit against the Rockies, but they're still a good team, and I don't think it's anything to be too worried about. Then we got the Orioles at 3-3. They went 2-1 against the Twins and 1-2 against the Rangers. They score a lot of runs and they give up a lot of runs too. A lot of these have been shootout games for the Orioles. I think they're going to be a very interesting team to watch this year. And then we got the Tampa Bay Rays. They are 2-4. They went 1-2 against the Cardinals and 1-2 against the Brewers. Pretty much what I expected from the Rays. They can't be blowing leads like they did against the Cardinals and the Brewers. However, I'm not really surprised one way or another. That's kind of what I expect from Tampa this season. And finally, Boston Red Sox, they are 1-5. They went 1-2 against the Reds and 0-3 against the Astros. The panic button is on standby if they keep this up for another week or so in Boston. In the AL Central, we got the Cleveland Guardians at 4-3. They went 2-2 against the Mariners, 2-1 against the Dodgers. A very impressive start against some World Series contenders. Watch out for Cleveland this year. Royals are 3-3. They went 1-2 against the Braves and 2-1 against the Twins. It's a fine start, but I think they need to pick it up a little bit. They shouldn't have dropped that last game to the Twins. And just as a side note, their catcher overslept for the game earlier today, and I just wanted to mention that their catcher overslept. Then we got the Tigers, who were at 2-4. They went 2-1 against the Padres and got swept by the D-backs. They had a rough start, but I have faith that they're going to be able to turn it around. McGonigal and Skubal are going to both be Cy Young and Rookie of the Year contenders, respectively. Then we got the Minnesota Twins at 2-4. 1-2 against the Orioles, 1-2 versus the Royals. They're still going to be bad. Then we got the White Sox at 1-5, 0-3 against the Brewers, 1-2 against the Marlins. Murakami is going to be fun to watch this year and is a very obvious bright spot on that team. Then in the AL West, we got the Astros at 5-2, 2-2 against the Angels, 3-0 against the Red Sox. They swept them. Early on, from what we've seen so far through their first 7 games, it looks like maybe if they play like this, at least somewhat consistently, that they might be able to find their way back into October this year. Then we got the Texas Rangers at 4-2. They went 2-1 against the Phillies and the Orioles. They lost some key guys, but they've picked up 2 really nice series wins early on. I'm excited to see how they perform throughout the rest of the season. Then we got the Angels at 3-4. They went 2-2 against the Astros, 1-2 against the Cubs. Mike Trout is back, baby. And then we got the Mariners at 3-4, 2-2 against the Guardians, 1-2 against the Yankees. They played really good teams. They hung tough in their games. I think they'll be all right. Just a little bit of a rocky start for them going 3-4. And then finally we got the Athletics, no city affiliation, at 1-5. They got swept by the Blue Jays and went 1-2 against the Braves. They have a solid offense, but they're not going to be able to support a pitching staff that is just this horrendous. So there's the American League recap, and I purposefully ended off with the team that I'm going to be transitioning here in a sec to talk about for the State of the Union. But like I just said, let me know if you like this format. Let me know if this is informative enough, giving you your little shot of baseball every week, letting you know what happened, letting you know how I feel about all these teams. If you like it, let me know. If you don't, let me know what you would change. So now, like I just said, the Athletics are 1-5. They got swept by the Blue Jays, and they went 1-2 against, who was it? They went 1-2 against the Braves. And I said they have a solid offense, but they cannot support that bad of a pitching staff. So keeping that in mind, I think it's a beautiful time to transition now in to the State of the Union, our 7th topic for the Athletics. Let's talk about the Athletics. I keep wanting to call them the Oakland Athletics. Like, they need, like, at least go to Vegas soon, man. Like, I don't like just saying the Athletics. Like, you need a city. I need a city to work with here, man. Regardless, the Athletics. They're 1-5. I know it's early, but it still feels like there's a discussion to be had about this team. Because the pitching is just a serious issue. I mean, they gave up 16 runs to Toronto and 11 to Atlanta. That's 28 runs. That's 4.6 runs per game so far. They are giving up almost 5 runs a game. And like I said, I know it's early on, but you need to attack these issues early because it's hard for an offense to support a pitching staff. Like, it's hard for an offense to put up 5 runs a game, and when that's how many you're giving up on the defensive side of the ball, you're not gonna. That's why you go 1-5. So the pitching needs to get figured out in, I guess, athletics. I can't say a city. The athletics need to figure out the pitching. I mean, because it's not even like they're getting blown out. They have 2 losses by 4. Yeah, those are pretty bad. They have 1 by 3 and 2 by 1. Like, they have solid competitive bats that are able to keep them in games. It's just the pitching just keeps putting these wins out of reach for them consistently. So that leads to the conversation of, all right, Oakland Athletics, how do we fix this? Well, I think you need to go out and just go get pitchers early. Like, you should be on the trade. Like, you should already be on the phone talking to guys about pitchers you can trade for, or looking into your minor league system for young guys you can call up. Because I said this last week, I think the Athletics, with the offense that they have the ability to be a team that gets into the wild card mix. I mean, Mark Coates is my manager of the year pick in the AL. However, if you don't go out and get those quality guys early, you're going to be so far behind the 8 ball before you even realize it if you let this problem linger. So go find, because it's top to bottom. I mean, its starting pitching isn't that good. Bullpen isn't that good. I mean, just find any guy with an arm who's got decent numbers that you can go out and get for, somewhat cheap. I know that's a lot easier said than done, but just with the pitching staff they have currently, I know they could change their performance up and start pitching lights out, honestly. It could happen because it's only been 6 games. Like I said, take all this with a grain of salt. This is very small sample size stuff. But 4.6 runs a game is a lot that you're giving up. So if you can go out and just put a Band-Aid on this pitching problem by getting some okay guys early, and then you find yourself in the mix near the trade deadline, then maybe you can go out and make a big splash play for a pitcher. I think you have to do that because you have the bats. I think the offense is good. I think it's very sound. There might be a couple spots here or there that more diehard Athletic fans than me would know, okay, we would change this. We would probably be able to get rid of this guy in a decent trade package. I'm not that keyed into the Athletics yet because I will be down the line. I will be keyed into every team as I continue to watch more and more baseball, but I can only watch so much in 6 days. I can only see so many teams play, and from the little bit I saw from the Athletics, the pitching is just horrendous. And if you want to go out and win games with an offense that I think is pretty solid, like I said, go out and find guys to trade for. Call up some guys in AAA who are pitching pretty well that maybe you just want to get out early in the season, because maybe not right now, but if this persists where you're giving up almost 5 runs for another week or 2, then you absolutely have to start making phone calls, because in a division where you're playing a Houston team that looks like they're going to be pretty solid this year, a Ranger team that might surprise some people, and a Mariner team that came 1 game short of the World Series last year. You play those teams a lot, so you're going to need to be able to compete with them if you want to do anything this year. So if it persists a little bit and you don't go out and get those pitchers, just wrap it up. Just wrap up the season, because your offense is not good enough to put up 5 or 6, average 5 to 6 runs a game, and that's probably what your pitching staff is going to be giving up, or at least close to it. Whew! So that is my State of the Union on the Athletics, the one and only Athletics. Yeah, very interesting. Fun fact about me, I worked for their High A affiliate, the Lansing Lugnuts, a couple years ago, so I do know some guys in the minor league system, mostly hitters, which isn't exactly what they're in need of right now. They got some good pitchers in their pipeline, but they need to figure it out, man. I don't know if Luis Morales is still on the major league roster. I know he got called up. I don't know if he's been back or forth. I would need to double check that, but Luis Morales, if he's not up, get him up. If he is up, get better, please, Luis. I want to see you succeed. You got Chen Zhang Aozuang down in either double or triple A. He was a really good arm when I saw him play. I hope he progresses well and gets up to the major leagues. They have some guys that they could call up that might just need some more time, but they need to do something about the pitching. So with that all being said, now I guess is officially the end of my State of the Union, because I had more to say that I didn't realize. And we're going to be moving on to our 8th topic, which is faces in new places. It rhymes. I picked out 3 guys who are on new teams now that I think are making really solid impacts. And once again, small sample size, so they might be making great impacts now, and then who knows, maybe they'll turn out to not be great acquisitions. But as of now, I think these guys are 3 pretty solid picks of guys who have already been making good impacts that are going to continue to make good impacts. So the first one is a Pittsburgh Pirate, and his name is Ryan O'Hearn. Absolutely phenomenal free agency pickup, in my opinion. He's played 5 games, had 23 plate appearances. 19 of those have been qualified as at-bats. He's got 8 hits in those 19 at-bats. That's a batting average of .421 for you. Add a couple home runs onto that and 6 RBIs with an OPS of 1.259, OPS plus of 259, slugging .737, on base over half the time. I mean, that's what the Pirates needed. They needed a powerhouse guy to hit like that for them. That can just, like, you know, you can throw him at the cleanup spot, 3 spot, 5 spot, like somewhere in that, to just, like, keep the line moving from the top down to the bottom of the order. Like, he's a good transition guy that I think is going to be able to provide really good offense for them. And from what I've seen so far, I think he's going to continue doing that. But once again, small sample size. How many... If you are drinking that beer that I mentioned, add some liquor into it and take a shot every time I say small sample size this episode. Because I'm just realizing now, I feel like I've said that a lot. But yeah, Ryan O'Hearn, he's been very good for the Pirates. Next one I picked is Dylan Cease. Dylan Cease, I know he's only had the 1 outing so far, but it was absolutely amazing. He didn't get the win, but he started the game. He pitched 5.1 innings, and he had 12 Ks. That's a whip, and you can add a whip, which, if you don't know what whip is, it's one of my favorite stats. I will educate you now on what whip is. It is walks and hits per innings pitched. So basically, every base runner you allow per innings pitched. So for pitchers, under 1 is an absolutely unreal whip. Like, you're one of the top dogs if you got under 1. Standard is probably 1 to about 1.2. Like, I'd say is still, like, good. Like, you're a good pitcher. Like, definitely closer to 1 than 1.2. Like, 1 to 1.1, you're, like, a really solid pitcher. 1.1 to 1.2, you're, like, like, he's okay, but he has his innings. And then if you're over 1.2, you're just, you're probably not that good. I love looking at whip as a stat. So as I break down pitchers and guys and how they perform throughout the rest of the year, I will be talking about whip a lot. So I'm happy I got that out there, and now everyone knows what whip is. But his whip through that first game was .938, less than 1 guy an inning get on base. That's what you want. He only gave up 3 hits, 2 walks to complement those 12 strikeouts. I mean, I think a lot of people were skeptical about Dylan Cease after last year. He wasn't absolutely amazing or anything. I mean, he was still he was a fine pitcher, but he wasn't like blowing anyone out of the water and you were like, oh god, we got to face Cease today, like, ugh. But with the Blue Jays this year, I have a feeling that Dylan Cease might go on, like, not like he'll have a Cy Young campaign. Like, I think he'll have enough of an argument to be in the conversation. I don't know if he'll be a front runner, but I think Dylan Cease's name, if he continues and pitches like how I saw him pitch to start this season, I know it was against the Athletics, but I still think he's going to be a good pitcher this year. And, I mean, 12 Ks in 5 innings, man. I mean, come on. That's impressive. You've only recorded 16 outs, and 12 of them were via the strikeout. That's 75% of your outs you're recording are strikeouts in your first start. I mean, that's pretty impressive because it's not 12 strikeouts and he pitched a complete game. It was 12 strikeouts in 5 1/3. So I think Dylan Cease has pitched very well this year through his one game, but I think he's going to be able to keep that up, and I think that is a great pickup for the Toronto Blue Jays. And then finally, another bird team. We're going to go to the Orioles this time. I'm going to go with Pete Alonso. Now, he's not a guy that's been, like, lights out, like, shocking me with how good he's been playing so far, putting up, like, you know, a 420 batting average or 12 Ks through 5 like the last two guys. But I just think he's been very solid, and I think it's worth noting what he's done, and I think he's going to be able to keep this production up. Maybe not entirely. He's hitting 304 right now. I don't think he's going to hit 300 for the whole season, but the fact that he's starting 7 for 23 and already has a WAR of .3, I think is pretty good. He's got his first home run as an Oriole. Got 2 RBIs, and he scored 3 runs himself. OPS at 819. I mean, it's nothing super flashy. It's nothing that'll blow you out of the water. But like I said, I do think that this, like, how do I phrase this? I do think that it's going to end up being a really good acquisition for the Orioles as we get farther into the season. Just from how I've seen him play so far. Like, he looks happy in his new home in Baltimore after leaving the New York Mets. So I almost, the only other guy I was considering for this, and I guess I could have just picked a 4th guy instead of cutting someone out. I don't know why I made the rule for myself that I could only pick 3, but honorable mention to Alex Bregman. He's looked pretty solid so far. I think he's got a couple home runs. I'm not quite sure what his batting average is, but I think Alex Bregman's going to end up panning out pretty well for the Cubs too. So that's a little honorable mention for a face in a new place. And I didn't count anyone on the Dodgers because it's like, do you really need someone to make a big impact on the Dodgers? I mean, they have everybody. Like, what does it matter if they have Edwin Diaz or Kyle Tucker coming in playing great? I mean, you already have Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, and Freddie Freeman, and Will Smith, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto. I mean, what more do you need? Talk about greed in LA. But yeah, that is my subject. That is the end of my 8th topic of faces in new places, letting you be keyed in on a couple of new guys, or a couple of old guys in new places making pretty good impacts, like, which is what those teams needed. They needed guys to come in, shake things up, bring life into the dugout, and I think these guys are going to do it. They're going to just make the people around them better and elevate the play of everybody. So with that all being said, rounding out the order, the 9th topic, we're going to talk about the Eastern Conference and the NHL. The NHL Eastern Conference. I can pretty firmly say, now I didn't do a lot of research on this to back it up, but I think this is one of the best conferences top to bottom I've ever seen in sports ever. And that's not an exaggeration. Like, of all the time I've been watching sports, I think this is the best conference I've seen top to bottom. And I'll tell you why. So these standings won't be, that I'm about to put up on the screen, won't be like exactly the same as whenever the video comes out, because there are some games that are going on right now that I'm not watching because obviously, you know, I'm filming this and you know what, my ADHD is kind of just like kicking in right now. I don't think I ever fully ran through what the standings were in the American League back on my 6th topic. So this is a weird time to do it, but I'm going to do that right now just because I feel like I forgot to do that. Maybe I didn't, but just in case I did, I'm going to rip that real quick. Yankees are in first place at 5-1. Blue Jays are in second, 4-2. Orioles are third at 3-3. Rays are in fourth at 2-4. Red Sox are at 1-5, 5th place. That's the AL East. AL Central, we got the Cleveland Guardians at 4-3 in first place. Royals at 3-3 in second. Tigers at 2-4 in third. Twins at 2-4 in fourth. And the White Sox at 1-5 in fifth. And then in the AL West, we got the Astros at 5-2 in first. The Rangers at 4-2 in second. The Angels at 3-4 in third. The Mariners at 3-4 in fourth. And the Athletics at 1-5 in fifth. Like I said, I just kind of decided to do that right now. I feel like I had to do that, so I did it because I think I forgot. Or maybe I didn't forget and I already did it and I just did it again. Whatever. Back to the NHL Eastern Conference. Top to bottom, it's just fantastic. I'm going to read off the standings to you now because I think it's absolutely amazing that no teams in the East have even clinched yet, with only like 7 or 8 games to go per team. I mean, it's an absolute bloodbath right now. You can see the standings up there. I'll put them up. Or you can't yet. You can right now. Now the standings are up there. You can see what's going on in the Eastern Conference. These are the wild card standings. I mean, the Washington Capitals are in 6th place in the wild card race, and they're only 3 points out of a playoff spot. I mean, that's crazy to me. Like, that is a stacked conference. Only one team has been eliminated, too. I know that's the same thing in the West as well, but the fact that only the New York Rangers have been eliminated from playoff play is insane to me. It just shows how insanely good this conference is. I mean, and when you compare it, I mean, the top team in the Pacific region is the Anaheim Ducks with 87 points, and you have about 6, 7, 8. You have 8 teams in the East that would be winning the Pacific Division right now if they were to be in it. That's how good this division is. The Western Conference standings are up there too. I know I'm not saying it, but they're up there. I'm all over the place. I'm recording on a Thursday. It's weird, guys. It's weird. I'm all over the place. This episode's messing with my mind. I'm backtracking. I'm forgetting things. I'm going back to things. It's all weird. But the NHL Eastern Conference is loaded. It's one of the best conferences I've ever seen. I mean, I can't think of the 4 major sports, I can't think of an American league or National League that's ever been this good, an AFC or NFC that's ever been quite stacked like this, or even an East and West in the NBA that's ever been quite this competitive with this many teams still in it with so few games to go. So I think that's great for hockey. I think it's going to make this last week of the NHL season so incredibly entertaining for so many teams, because there are a lot of teams. Like I said, there's 4 teams out of the wild card who are 3 points or less away from getting into a wild card spot. That's so many fan bases that still have a reason to tune into their team's games down the stretch and try to watch them win. So I just wanted to give that conference its flowers. It baffles me how good the conference is. I'm excited to see what the final standings are here in a couple weeks once the season fully finishes up. How good were these teams that just barely missed out on the playoffs? Who is barely going to miss out on the playoffs? What's going to lead us to that? There's so much coming up, so much to look forward to. Whether you're a hockey fan or just a casual sports fan, if you like competitive sporting events, watch the NHL coming up down the stretch, specifically the Eastern Conference games, because I think they're going to be really good. Because like I said, this is one of the best top to bottom conferences I have ever seen in sports before. Whew, so that is the end of our starting 9. I know it was kind of all over the place. I was for a while of it, but I think it was good. I think we talked a lot about baseball, and it was fun. Sprinkled in a little hockey there. Teed us off with some Sweet 16, Elite 8, and Final 4. It was a well-rounded episode. I think it was fun, and that brings us here to the top 10. This week's topic for the top 10, I'm going to be talking about my top 10 favorite sporting events that happen. Okay, not all of these happen yearly. 8 of these happen yearly, but 2 of them are every 4 years. I'm probably by that hint you know which ones I'm talking about, but I couldn't figure out a good name to categorize all these under. I guess recurring sporting events is what I'm going to call this. And I'm going to lead us off with number 10, NBA Finals. I think the NBA is just kind of whatever now, you know? I think it's that's how I feel about the NBA. Just it's boring to me. It doesn't feel like anyone cares. It feels like everyone just plays for themselves and not the team. And it's I just don't feel and it's just the finals don't feel like how they used to. I mean, they don't even put the big Larry O'Brien logo on the court anymore. All these playoff games in recent years have just had the energy of regular season games to me. Especially the finals, which is just not what you want in a sporting event. It doesn't get me excited anymore. And I've never been a huge NBA fan, but I used to get excited for the NBA playoffs and the NBA finals. And while I'm still going to watch, don't get me wrong, it's not I'm not going to watch, but it just doesn't feel like it carries that same weight that it used to. So for that, I have the finals at number 10. At number 9, I got the Kentucky Derby. I think the Kentucky Derby is really fun. It's so exciting. It's quick, but everyone tunes in. I think there aren't too many horse races, that people tune into every year, just as a whole. But I don't watch horse racing, like, ever. But I will not miss the Kentucky Derby. I think it's very fun. I think it's very unique. And I have it at number 9 on my list. At number 8 on my list, I have the Summer and Winter Olympics. I just kind of combined all of the Olympics into one. And I know it's all the way down at 8, but I think what hurts it is just the fact that it's every 4 years. I know that makes it special. I know that makes it, like because all these athletes need time to train and everything. I guess we get a Olympics every 2 years, but I think you still understand the point I'm trying to make. It's not every year. It's still very exciting. Like, I love watching the Olympics, even though most of the time it's on the other side of the world and you got to watch it at like 4 in the morning. But I think the Olympics are great. A lot of the sports, I will admit, I am not the most interested in. Like, you're not going to catch me watching, like, I guess I am interested in more of the sports than I thought. I would probably get caught watching most of it. But I do like the Olympics. Unless I'm rooting for the USA, I don't have that fire in my belly that I have watching most of these other sporting events going forward. But I love the Olympics. Who doesn't? Number 8 on the list. And number 7 on my list, I got the World Cup. All my soccer or football fans out there are probably baffled that I have it all the way down at 7, but to be honest, it's just because I'm not that big of a soccer fan. Like, I don't watch soccer unless it's the World Cup. I'll be the first guy to admit it. Unless it's the World Cup, I will probably never watch a full soccer game. I don't have an allegiance to a team. It's never been the most interesting or exciting sport, in my opinion. I'll be the first one to admit that, but I can appreciate what the World Cup is, and I will tune in to every USA World Cup game. Always, you can bet on that. But just comparatively to how much I watch these other events that I have later on the list and just how passionate I get about them, I just couldn't put the World Cup that high. So that's why I have it at number 7. Sorry, I feel like I have to sneeze, but it's not happening. So I'm just going to keep moving, and I might sneeze. All right. At number 6, I got the college football playoff. I think the college football playoff is super fun, especially since they've increased it to 12 teams after 4. I think the only thing that holds it back is just the fact of how they format it and the fact that there are just 2 group of 5 teams in it basically every year. I think that just leads to some intentionally blowout games that I get, like, in March Madness you have those, but that I feel like that's totally different because you're taking the best 64 teams in the country with the power, like all the conference bids. Like, that makes sense. The college football playoff, totally different scenario, totally different sport with, like, you want the best of the best competing. Like, we had James Madison and Tulane in it last year. Like, that's not the best of the best. So until that kind of gets tweaked and I see it in full action in a new format, it kind of takes a hit a little bit, even though all the bowl games being in the playoffs now I think was a great change and super exciting. I just have to put it at 6. Number 5, I got the Stanley Cup Finals. Actually, for all 4 of these major sports, like I said, NBA Finals, it's kind of, NBA playoffs all encompassing. This is the NHL playoffs / Stanley Cup Final. I love playoff hockey. I think overtime playoff hockey is the most intense, fun thing to watch in sports, especially if your team's in it. You are on the edge of your seat. Next goal wins. I mean, Game 7 playoff overtime hockey, if you get that in the Stanley Cup, you're so lucky to be watching that. Like, you should feel blessed because that is one of the most entertaining things you could possibly get in sports. I really don't think you see anything like that anywhere else in sports. And if it weren't for just me not being like the biggest hockey fan in the world, even though I really do love watching hockey a lot, it's just these next 4 items on my list, I think, just top it, man. But the Stanley Cup Finals, ooh. It was hard for me to put this down at 5 because they're so good, but it is what is 5th on my list. At number 4, I got the NFL playoffs / Super Bowl. What needs to be said? Super Bowl is the biggest sporting event of the year. So many eyes are on it every year. I think the only thing that I just don't like about the NFL playoffs are the fact that they're all one-and-done games. I had to blow my nose. I'm sorry. I no sneeze came out. I had to blow my nose, so I apologize for your ears. I think that's the first time I've blown my nose on Givin Takes. That's the James Bond episode, baby. We're blowing noses. Giving takes and blowing noses. But as I was saying, the NFL playoffs and the Super Bowl, I know you can't make it like a series, but I just like series formatted things more, which is going to kind of contradict one of the items I have here later on my list. But I don't know. The NFL playoffs, they're great. I love them. The Super Bowl is amazing. It's just the fact that, like, you could get to the Super Bowl, biggest game of the year, and then it could be Super Bowl 53, where it's like 13-3, and it just sucks, and it's underwhelming. It's like, damn. Whereas in other sports, you get like multiple games in these final series, or just more games throughout the playoffs to make like the overall product better. I think it's just the one and doneness for me in the NFL that might knock it down a peg, because it's either all or nothing. You're either getting a good game against these teams or a terrible game against these teams. It's one shot. So that's why I have it at number 4 on my list. Number 3, I got the MLB playoffs and the World Series. A little bit biased just because I'm an insanely big baseball fan. So I just love baseball, period. I think the Fall Classic is amazing. Baseball stadiums, the energy that is in those buildings come October and November, I truly believe is unmatched. I think of Bryson Stott in his home run where the crowd's just singing his walk-up song, and then he hits that homer. The grand slam, actually, against the Marlins. I think that just kind of energy in sports you only find out on the baseball field. I mean, Brad Pitt said it best in Moneyball. Like, how can you not be romantic about baseball? It's a beautiful sport. It's a beautiful game. And the MLB playoffs never seem to disappoint. So I have them at 3 because all of that, and I just love baseball. At number 2, I got March Madness. Best tournament in sports, no question about it. 68 teams, technically, if you want to count the first 4. You get 4 straight days of nonstop college basketball. And then Elite 8, Sweet 16 weekend, you get your evenings packed with basketball. I guess you're at more your afternoons in the Elite 8. But you still get jam-packed with college basketball, more meaningful games. You don't have the volume, but you have more meaning. The Final Four is one of the biggest events of the year, National Championship, which is coming up. Maybe this is March bias because I just got done watching a whole bunch of college basketball March Madness games, so I have it up higher on this list. But like I said, I truly think it is the greatest tournament in sports, so that's why I have it at number 2. It's so much fun to watch, and that first weekend of just nonstop college basketball is truly unparalleled. And at number 1, this might be a shock, but it's a sporting event unlike any other. Some may say it's a tradition unlike any other, because it is. At number 1, I have the Masters. This is something I've never been the world's biggest golf fan. All right, like I'll be the first to admit that. It took me a while until I was in college, both to start like playing more golf and watching golf as a whole. But once I started watching golf, and just the Masters stands out so much, not only from every other golf tournament, but just from every other sports tournament. I mean, the history that comes with it, the emotions that come with it, all the little tiny details. Like, I love like the green jacket, the trophy, the fact that you get a dinner the next year, the fact that it's like a club and you get to come back and play it whenever if you win it. Like, I feel like winning the Master, and it's also individual. It's not a team thing. It is, they're individuals, which makes it so much harder and so much more impactful and emotional for the guys who win. I mean, I love the Masters. It's coming up here soon. I'm going to have a Masters topic on my episode next week, kind of looking ahead to it, but I absolutely love the Masters. And this was even a shock to me that I had this at number 1, because like I said, I've recently gotten into golf, but just given how the Masters runs and everything about it, I think it's so unique and emotional, just a beautiful sporting event to tune into, whether or not you're the biggest golf fan. Just tune into the Masters, watch it, and then you'll understand what I'm talking about. So that is the top 10. I'll run it back for you real quick of my recurring yearly-ish sporting events outside of the Olympics and the World Cup. At 10th, we got the NBA Finals. At 9th, we got the Kentucky Derby. At 8th, we got the Summer and Winter Olympics. At 7th, we got the World Cup. At 6th, we got the College Football Playoff. At 5, we got the Stanley Cup Final. At 4, we got the Super Bowl and NFL Playoffs. At 3, we got the World Series and MLB Playoffs. At 2, we got March Madness. And at 1, the Masters. So that's it. That's all I got for you guys today. I know the episode was kind of all over the place. It was such a headache trying to get this episode out this week, but I'm happy that I finally have this recorded, and now all I have to do is edit it, which hopefully shouldn't take me long. And then next week, you can catch me on the Empty the Bench Lounge over on the ETB network on YouTube. I'm going to start appearing on their stuff much more now, and I'm very, very excited about it. And I hope you guys are too. You get to see my face in new places, that if you like my content, I think you're really going to like what I have in store with the Empty the Bench network. There's something else I wanted to say, but it's escaping me. I don't remember what I was going to say. But like I said, bunch of headaches and planning and pushback went into this episode, so it is just a relief to finally have it out for you guys. And if you're watching this and you made it to the end of the video, subscribing I would appreciate it. I'm going to do something special at 100 subscribers. I believe we're knocking on the door of it. I think we're at 74 right now, something like that. So if 26 more of you watching want to subscribe, I ain't going to stop you. Go ahead. Do it. I'll look away if you don't want to see. All right, I peeked. All right. But you probably just subscribed. I know you did. I know I'm acting goofy. I'm silly. I don't even know what I'm talking about right now. I don't even know. This has been probably my weirdest episode so far in terms of where I'm at mentally. But we got it done. I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, I've been Nate Miller, and those are my takes.